Good evening and welcome to Madeline Potts and Jack Graham Presents Songs and Stories, the streaming version. Hope everybody's doing great out there tonight. I'm really honored that you join us. We've got a great night ahead for you. I want to just start off with a song from my friend Jacob Johnson. The doctors and the nurses and our boys in blue, that veteran in the supermarket line next to you, they might have it. They might have it. The little girl on her porch with a happy birthday sign, her neighbors and friends driving by in a line, 'cause they might have it. They might have it. Togetherness and unity are much too dangerous, so stay away from me till there's herd immunity. The little boy with glasses who's mowing your yard, that lady from the church who sent you that card, they might have it. They might have it. Oh, they might have it. They might have it. I hope everybody's staying safe out there and had a good dinner. We're going to start out with an incredible story by my friend that I'm missing very much tonight, Madeline Potts, who couldn't join us tonight, and so she sent us a video. We're going to do that. Then we've got Patrick Hagerman, a story by Jesse James, and then we'll wrap it up at the end. And tonight, I know you know that we're talking about moments. All of us have these moments in our lives where things happen to us. Right now, I feel like there's this huge moment that decades from now, people are going to talk about the moment that our country and our planet are going through right now. Some moments change our destiny, and other real strong moments fail to do so. Some moments are flagged easily and easily noticed, like if you're finishing a project or you meet a deadline or something. Some are more elusive and sneak by, that, like that moment where you have a realization. Sometimes you find you're the weirdest person in the room. It's a recent realization for me. How about when you meet a new friend who turns out to be a lifelong member? Or when you lose someone and that last moment touches you so deeply and permanently. You know what? It's not unusual for a great big moment to not really mean very much. For example, the first time you looked into your lover's eyes. And on the flip side, there's those real small, insignificant moments that turn out to mean everything, like the first time you looked into your lover's eyes. I was born in 1956, and I remember a lot of big moments. I watched the moon landing on TV. I suffered when Kennedy got shot as a kid. 9/11. The fall of the Berlin Wall, when we elected Barack Obama. But right up there with all of those were the first time I heard Jimi Hendrix and Debussy's Clair de Lune, as well as Mary and Karen, the birth of our first son, the passing of my father, the experience of being a family, even the first time on an airplane. I hope that by talking about moments for a while that we learn to appreciate that lots of the most important moments are those mundane moments that we repeat every day with the people that we love. With that in mind, I'd like to play our first story for tonight. My friend Jesse James has given us an incredible moment or a series of moments in his life. So take it away, Jesse. Oh my God. What a moment. I just introduced the wrong video. Madeline, you get to go first, my friend. Everyone enjoy.
Hi there. Welcome to my backyard. I have a story for you. It dates back many years before I was a storyteller. I was a potter, and I made my living going to festivals and shows selling pots. This is a story from that time. It goes like this. I heard Quigley long before I saw him, clacking his way up the steps of David's porch. I braced myself. I didn't know what to expect. The day before, on the long dirt drive up to his house, I encountered a rattlesnake. It reared up, ready to strike at my van. It was terrifying. The door pushed open. A 200-pound pig came waddling into the room. "Oh, that's Quigley," David said. "You have a pet pig?" "Well, we thought he was a Vietnamese pot-belly pig, and he was so little and cute when we got him. But he just grew and grew, and, well, I guess they sold us just a plain old regular pig. And he's always hungry. He wants you to pet him." I reached out and stroked his back. It was like petting a scrub brush that had lost most of its bristles. Finally, David said, "That's enough, Quigley. Out." Quigley stayed put. "Does he understand commands?" "Yes, out, Quigley." And he pushed Quigley out the door. David disappeared into the kitchen and came out with 2 mugs of coffee. We spread a road map out on the dining room table and charted our route to Atlanta, Georgia. We were going to the Atlanta Convention Center for a trade show, a prestigious trade show. David said to me, "You know, I got a lot riding on this show. I really need to make some money." I said, "Me too. I got a ton of bills at home." We clinked coffee cups, and then David said, "You ready?" "Yeah, let's do it." We climbed into our vans. "You take the lead," I called, and I followed him up that dirt road till we made it out onto the open highway. We reached Atlanta at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and stepped into the Marriott Hotel. It was all marble. David whispered, "Pretty hotsy-totsy." "Yeah." I felt like the hillbilly cousin. I had spilled coffee on my T-shirt, and David had been eating peanuts while we were driving and shelling them, and he had a crotch full of peanut shell dust. But they gave us a room. Setup was the next day, and the show opened in the evening. David's display was right across the aisle from mine. His pots were as huge as mine were petite, great big 4 and 5 foot tall vessels. Designers and decorators flocked to his display. But by the end of the evening, he hadn't sold anything, hadn't taken any orders, and neither had I. And that was the signature of the show for the next 3 days. On Saturday night, which was the 3rd day of a very disappointing show, David said, "We need to have some fun. Let's go dancing." Oh, that sounded good. He said, "There's this place called the Underground. There's food, there's dancing, there's music. We can get there by trolley." Well, trolley was just an additional charm. So we cleaned ourselves up, found a stop, and when the trolley came, we got on board. It must have been an off hour. We were the only passengers. We sat up front and talked to the driver. A few minutes later, he made another stop, and another passenger climbed on. He was a tall, thin man wearing a khaki jacket. He held on to the rail with one hand. I couldn't really see his face. It was mainly covered by a hood. He kept his other hand in his pocket. He leaned over toward the driver. Smith Street. I'm sorry, sir. This trolley doesn't go to Smith Street. Smith Street, the man said. Sir, I'd take you there if I could, but this trolley doesn't go to Smith Street. Smith Street. Take me to Smith Street. I got a gun. And he wiggled something in his pocket. David and I looked at each other, not knowing what to expect. But the driver was very calm. He actually spoke to the man in conspiratorial tones. Okay, man, I'm going to take you to Smith Street. But you know what? You should tell these two guys to move to the back of the trolley. You don't want them getting in your way. The man thought about it. Yeah. You two, you move to the back. So David and I walked to the back of the trolley and sat down on the long seat opposite the rear doors, which were open. And the trolley began to move, slowly. I looked toward the driver, and I could see in his rear view mirror that he was looking at us. His eyes kept darting sideways. I nudged David, but he had seen it too. He grabbed my hand. He said, "Get ready. He's going to let us off." The trolley slowed down, and when it was at barely a crawl, David grabbed me, pushed me forward. I stumbled down those steps, off the trolley, right into the arms of a perfect stranger. He wrapped his arms around me. He wouldn't let me go. I began to scream. He was trying to tell me something, but I couldn't understand what he was saying over the sound of my own voice. And then he jerked his jacket open, and I saw his Atlanta policeman's shield. Then I looked toward the front of the trolley, and I saw 2 more policemen escorting the trolley jacker away. They frisked him. His gun turned out to be a banana. I said to our policeman, "How did you know? Was there a secret button on the steering wheel or something?" He wasn't giving away any trade secrets. He ignored my question and said, "I've called a taxi. It should be here any minute." And sure enough, a taxi arrived. David and I climbed in the back seat. "Where to?" the driver said. "Back to the Marriott," we answered simultaneously. We'd had enough excitement for one evening. The next day was Sunday, the last day of the show. By 12 o'clock, David still had not sold anything or even taken an order. And in a rather dramatic move, he climbed into one of his pots, wiggled his shoulders underneath the neck so just his head was sticking out, and he had a sign on it. It said, "I'm not coming out of this pot until someone buys something." Well, that got him some attention. People came to talk to the potter in the pot. Other artists came by to schmooze away the afternoon, but by 4 o'clock he still hadn't sold anything, and he acknowledged defeat. But when he tried to get out of the pot, he couldn't feel his legs, and his arms and shoulders had gone kind of numb too. He looked at me. I said, "What's wrong, David?" And he mouthed, "I'm stuck." Well, I'm normally a compassionate person. I don't enjoy other people's problems, but it must have been fatigue-driven hysteria. I broke out laughing. The artist on either side of me said, "What's so funny?" I said, "It's David. He's stuck in his pot." It was like dominoes. Words spread down the aisle, and with it, laughter sprung out of every display booth. Finally, a security guard came over. He looked at David, took a walkie-talkie out of his pocket and talked into it. And 2 minutes later, a little mini lift truck arrived, and they hoisted David out of his pot to the applause of all the rest of us onlookers. We packed down. We loaded up our displays. We drove out into the Atlanta night. We found a cheapy motel on the far side of town and settled in, each of us silently absorbing our disappointment. In the morning, We resumed our journey. When we crossed the Florida border, we stopped at the Stuckey's. There was a long line at the counter. I said to a woman, "Is something going on?" She said, "Oh, it's the lottery. You know, this is the closest place that us folks from Georgia can come and buy Florida lottery tickets. And you know, the jackpot is $13 million. David and I looked at each other. We bought 2 tickets. We promised each other that we would share our winnings. We fantasized over a cup of coffee about all the things we were going to do with all that money. Then we got into our vans. He headed back to Micanopy, and I drove on to Winter Park, Florida. About a week later, David called me. "Hey, did you ever check your ticket?" "Oh, yeah, David, I did. I didn't have a single number. I didn't win anything. How about you?" "Oh, I was so excited," he said. "I got the first 5 numbers, but the 6th one was off, so I didn't win anything." It took me a moment to think about what he was saying. Could he possibly not know, that that ticket was worth a lot of money? "David, what did you do with your winning ticket?" "Winning? No, I didn't win anything." And I know it was petulant, but I tore it up. I threw it on the compost, and Quigley ate it. I didn't have the heart to tell him he had thrown away thousands of dollars. Well, I look back on that time of my life. I wouldn't wish that kind of financial stress on anyone, but we survived. We more than survived. We compensated for our poverty with an abundance of creativity. We celebrated our successes and we dealt with our disappointments. The children grew up. They went to school. They embarked on their own journeys in life. David relocated to Massachusetts and became a successful potter up there. I eventually changed careers. But all those years that I spent bent over my potter's wheel taught me that shape is created from the inside out, just like the values that flavor my memories.
Madeline, amazing, beautiful, thank you. Shape is created from the inside out, kind of blows me away, as well as the fact that Madeline's probably the only person who's ever going to tell you a story about being trolley jacked. It's the first time I ever heard that one. I'm really excited and pleased to be able to tell you about our next performer, Patrick Hagerman here. Patrick's kind of new to me, but I was blown away by his collection of songs and how a lot of it just spoke to me, and I think it'll do the same for you. Patrick?
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jack, for having me, and thank you, Chris, for this wonderful venue. I'd like to say real quickly before I get started, a congratulations to Beth McKee and all those folks in the Swamp Sisters Sisterhood for their success today in the La La. Last I checked, they raised about $19,000, a little over $19,000 for Second Harvest Food Bank. So congratulations and thank you to all of them. My name's Patrick Hagerman. I'm from Springfield, Illinois. I live here in Maitland now. And you can find me playing around the area. I'm going to do a few songs that I wrote. This first one is called Border War. It's a relationship song. There are lots of moments in relationships you can point to, good and bad, and in between. And I hope you can identify or draw something from this. I'll shout from a megaphone how I hate to be alone. I may go try methadone or the driving range. I need something to calm my nerves, straighten out all my swerves. I may switch up the God I serve as borders change. And you tell me that you've had enough, and you tell me you've crossed the line on the map of whatever it takes to satisfy your weary mind. I wanna be the only one that shakes you to the core. I surrendered to you years ago. Why can't we stop this border war? We're a mission without a cause. We're like open container laws, like your idea of Santa Claus getting rearranged with weapons of government, like terror and malcontent, by force and by accident. Our borders change. And you tell me you have had enough, and you tell me I crossed the line on the map of whatever it takes to satisfy your weary mind. But I wanna be the only one that shakes you to the core. I surrendered to you years ago. Why can't we stop this border war? It's the equal and opposite, the push and the pull of it. We lose and we benefit. Baby, looks like rain over mountains in majesty, in triumph and travesty, through boundaries and blasphemy. Our borders change. And you tell me that you've had enough, and you tell me I crossed the line on the map of whatever it takes to satisfy your weary mind. I wanna be the only one that shakes you to the core. I surrendered to you years ago. Why can't we stop this border war? I still wanna be the only one that shakes you to the core. I surrendered to you years ago. Why can't we stop this border war? That one's called Border War. In Jack's introduction to our show today, he talked about various moments throughout one's life, significant and insignificant. Two significant, maybe the most significant moments of my life were being present at the passing of my mother and father. I'm very thankful that I got to be there. And this song is a song reflecting on those two very significant moments in my life. I wrote this the day my father passed away. It's called One Last Look. One last look and you were gone, and I was here alone. I've been beside you several days, and now I'm heading home. Seems you knew how much I could take, and that was all it took. And I'll always remember one last look. One last time to talk to you about the whys and whens. There was so much still left to say, had I only known it then. They say you're in a better place, but I don't know where to start. Then clearly in my mind I hear the beating of your heart. Stories will get passed around, the laughter and the tears, the joys and sorrows that make up the passing of the years. And now I know that you're at peace, but it's hard to let go. And I hope to see you someday. Heaven only knows. One last look and you were gone, and I was here alone. You've been beside me all my life, and now you're heading home. Seems you knew how much I could take, and that was what it took. And I'll always remember that one last look. And I'll always remember one last look. One last look for my mom and dad, Gene and Casey Hagerman. I've got one more little short song, one more tune to end my little session here on a positive note, an uplifting moment, if you will. This is a song I wrote after visiting my hometown of Springfield, Illinois, and seeing some old high school classmates, noticing how much we'd grown up since we had all kind of hung around together. And we had a lot of fun, both then in high school and in the present day, seeing each other again and recounting those memories. One friend in particular had grown a beautiful coif of facial hair, and this is a song about Brian Wojcicki's beard. Brian Wojcicki's beard, it's way cooler than I am, but that don't bother me, I think I'm pretty cool. And all the ladies like us, once they get to know us, and put aside their worries and their fears. We drown out all their sorrows, dry up all their tears, and we overtake tomorrows, and we soak up a few beers. That's me and Brian Wojcicki's beard. Brian Wojcicki's beard, it's way cooler than I am. That never bothered me, I think I'm pretty cool. And we've got a lot in common. We've got our lives together. We're hotter in the summer, rolling with the weather. And sometimes we start over, and sometimes we get lonely, and sometimes we get caught looking at ourselves in the mirror. That's me and Brian Wojcicki's beard. So put aside your worries and your fears. Drown out all your sorrows and dry up all your tears. And overtake tomorrows and soak up a few beers. 'Cause there is no better time than now, no better place than here. No, there is no better time than now, no better place than here. No, there is no better time than now, no better place than here. With me and Brian Wojcicki's beard. Oh, thank you all for watching the program today. Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Madeline. And I hope to be back here at the Blue Bamboo very soon. Y'all take care of yourselves and each other. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Man, Patrick, that was awesome. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I have to tell you that when I first played here was been over 2 years ago now, and I played here on a bill with Terry Binion. And when I started looking for people to do songs and stories, both Beth McKee and Terry Binion said, "Oh, you need to get Patrick Hagerman on here." And they were absolutely right. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate that. I've already given Jesse a great introduction. I'm sorry that, it's not a Jack show that something doesn't fall apart completely. I'm just glad it happened. I'm just glad it happened that early. And I've got a couple left in me, too. So I'm going to turn you over to Jesse, a very powerful story here now. And take it away, Chris.
So here's my story about a moment in time. I was 26 years old. I had just gotten my first job in the entertainment industry. Big recording studio. Couldn't believe that it was happening. I'd just come off the success of producing a bunch of dance albums and feeling good about myself as a musician and audio engineer. But now I was in the big leagues. But my boss believed in me. He had me set up in this little secondary studio. I had my own little mixer and my own little keyboard. And he said, hey man, we got this big opportunity with Animal Planet. They got this new series called Emergency Vets. Now, if you do real good and you write a theme song, we can get the music and we can get the mix. So I want you to work on that. And we have to present Thursday. And so I did. I worked my tail off. I created this really cool track and everybody was happy. So we waited for that big producer to come in and kind of evaluate everything. They all go into that main mix studio and I wait patiently. I hear everybody laughing, the door opens up, everybody walks out, everybody's shaking hands. I feel like, hey, we got this. And boss comes over and he says, hey, we got the mix, but the music they actually gave to another composer. His name's Chris Hewitt. And I was a bit heartbroken. My dream just kind of went out the window, but I wanted to hear why. So I sat down at that big old mixing console and I pushed up the faders and I just sat back. And then all of a sudden, I heard why. And I knew that I had been beat. And it probably was a good thing too, because the contract actually was that you would have to score 25 minutes of music a week on top of doing this theme song. This was so much work, they actually moved Chris into the studio with us. So there was our edit suite, there was a glass window, there was a sound stage, and there was another glass window where Chris used to sit. And as I would edit, I would look through that window and just see this guy, and he just radiated confidence. He just played so well. In the mornings when I used to walk by his office, when the door would be kind of open, I'd hear him just practicing scales like it was nothing, or playing blues or jazz or classical, and just doing it so well that it just looked effortless. Like he was just having a conversation. I couldn't even imagine having that kind of talent. So quite often I would, Mr. Chris, hey, I hate to bother you, man. Can you give a guy a couple tips? And he always was, Mr. Jesse, come on then, of course. He'd sit me down, he'd explain things, he would show me riffs, he would show me like all the things that, you dream of learning in music school. Suddenly I was in this like master's course. And we became really good friends. But Chris was going through something quite profound outside of work. He was going through a divorce. And despite his radiance on the inside, this darkness on the outside was closing in. I could hear it in his music. I could see it in his demeanor. He pretty much was homeless at one point, living in a car, sleeping on couches of anybody that would let him. And this went on for months. And I was really, really worried. And I remember talking to him. Why are you enduring all this? He's like, I'm trying to hang on to my kids. I love my kids. And then, out of the blue, one day I was sitting there editing and I see this light emanating from his room. And I'm not talking about like the electricity. I mean, there was this woman that walked in and he just completely transformed. And she just had this presence about her. I called him up on the phone. Mr. Chris. And he picked up the phone looking over through the glass window. Mr. Jesse. Who was that fabulous woman that just walked in there? Well, that was Mrs. Jeannie. Tell me, who is Mrs. Jeannie? She's a singer I happened to meet. And for the next several weeks, through that glass window, I got to watch the most amazing love story unfold. These two were just smitten with each other. And all of a sudden, his music made this amazing transformation. I mean, Chris was great, but it went into a completely different realm, which was hard to even comprehend. We would sit there with the producers and they would just be emotional watching these episodes. Man, there's just so much like energy in this. This is fantastic. And Chris and Jeannie moved in together. And Jeannie introduced me to my first wife and mother to my beloved daughter. We were like family. Jeannie would cook these incredible Mediterranean dishes, and her house was just so elegant. Chris and I would just talk shop, sit out in the backyard, laugh, talk about all the wonderful things that being an artist is, and the creativity and all that. He just became like the ultimate mentor for me. But my life changed, and I moved to Florida to seek better opportunities. And Chris was off in the stratosphere. The television show had become a hit, and every time I came back to visit, he had these better and better setups, and eventually he had this gorgeous studio with a grand piano, and he just was who he always has been. This humble guy with extraordinary skills. But one Thanksgiving we came back and he wasn't at the house. Jeannie said, "You need to go see him. He's down at the hospital. He hasn't been feeling well." So we go down there and see him. "Mr. Chris, what's going on, my friend?" "Well, seems like I'm down for the count, Mr. Jesse." They were worried it was cancer. And the room got very quiet. And we walked out of there and I felt like something was going to take a bad turn. But he did get out of the hospital. A few weeks later, we were feeling optimistic. He got onto a few film productions, and then I thought, maybe he's going to navigate through this. And it seemed like things went well for quite some time until I got a call from Jeannie, and she said, "You need to call him now." So we bought an airline ticket and I flew out there. And I remember going in the house, and it was the same house. It just had a different feel to it. Chris had been in and out of the hospital so much that he finally gave up on it. And Jeannie was taking care of him full time. I remember walking into that room and looking at him, and he looked like he had aged 40 years. I went over and gave him a hug, and I said, "Mr. Chris, it's good to see you." And he said, "It's great to see you." And we talked, and I even got him laughing a little bit. And after a while, everybody was kind of settling down, and Chris says, "Let's go out for dinner." And I remember everybody, "Well, where are we going to go?" I mean, he hadn't been out of the house for months, but he got on his jacket, and he got in his wheelchair, and we pushed him out the door, and we took him out to a really nice restaurant. And the manager and the staff, they were super kind to us. And Jeannie said, I don't ever remember him being that happy, not for months anyway. Just sitting there with all of us and our kids, just sitting on top of the world. And I remember the day before I left, I was sitting in the room with Chris, and I had brought this book from the Dalai Lama to try to read some words of wisdom or something like that, and I couldn't find the words to express how I felt. He said, "You got some knowledge for me, my friend?" "Mr. Chris, I don't have any knowledge for you. You are the Bodhisattva. You are the one that changes people through your music and everything that you give. You make this world a better place. And I love you like a brother." And he hugged me, and it took off. And that was the last I saw him. But he went well. He was there, and Jeannie took care of him to the very end. And I asked myself the same questions that everybody asks themselves in that situation. Why? Why did the good ones go? And I came to the conclusion that that's not the question to ask. Matter of fact, there is no question. Just be grateful for the win, for that moment in time where a human enters your life and they teach you how to be a better human being. I miss you, my friend.
Thank you, Jesse. As always, man, we love you. Well, I get to follow that one, and I'm honored to do so. I have to tell you that it's all been very confusing for me, this virus, isolation. I never dreamed that we would shut down businesses and that I wouldn't be able to come to the Blue Bamboo and hear a show. Never seen anything like that. So my introduction into that world of putting on a mask and wearing gloves and stuff kind of surprised me, especially since the first time I had to go out, I didn't have a mask. And I went back and dug in a drawer in the guest bedroom, and I found an old Canadian Cub Scout kerchief, a big blue thing with a embroidered golden maple leaf on there. So I wrapped that around my head and realized I kind of had this maple leaf medallion on me, but that's what happened. I'm going to tell you some more about that particular experience. Oh God, my nose itches. It's hot in these britches. Everybody seems to be growing a beard. My weirdness just enriches. My head's throwing wild pitches, and I'm ready for us to safely reappear. The clothes fell down in Karen's closet. Now they're all over the bed. I'm gonna have to go to Home Depot. That's just what she said. I haven't been anywhere since this got started. I haven't had to put on a mask. Distancing is hard for the tender-hearted. I'm not carrying a flask, and I guess I'm just a little tender-hearted. So I grabbed that bag of latex gloves that's been in the garage for years. Threw them in the car with the sanitizer. Thought about getting some beer. I parked near the door because nobody else was there. Tied the scarf around my face. I looked in the mirror and I saw a bandito. Grabbed the gloves to walk into the place. Now, do you folks remember Leave It to Beaver? Because the gloves that were in that bag, they weren't surgical latex virus reduction see-through blue gloves. I found 2 gloves of yellow, thick and gleaming, that fit all the way up to my elbows. You know, the kind of gloves that June Cleaver wore when she was washing dishes. Then I slowly proceeded into that glorious sun-drenched, orange-faced building where all you needed for your botched project dreams could come true. And there were all kind of people in there, lovely people. A mix of humanity speaking different languages with different hair and skin and eyes and attitudes. People with unmeasurable levels of happiness, sorrow, confusion, love. People repairing homes, building tables, starting gardens, raising children, taking care of old people. Setting themselves up for great joy, mowing lawns, lighting grills, and fixing their wives' closets. Well, I realized that if I'd have come in here dressed like this a month ago, that they would have alerted the manager, maybe even called the popo, that I was on a mission and would not be stopped until I got the stuff I need. It was clear that not everyone had adopted that distancing was a new creed. Some people looked scared and some even worse. Some hardly cared and some even cursed. Other like me, for better or worse, we're trying to protect everybody. Now I'm not judging, so don't get me wrong. That's not the nudging to get from this song. I'm just trying to figure out where I belong. Well, Santa Claus was arguing with his beard full of virus. An irritated employee was trying to care. I stood there in silence like a bandit June Cleaver, forgiving Santa's attitude and being unfair. I realized that everyone was struggling, maybe more than ever before. Let's face it, on Earth, we're the virus. Gotta get together, you know what for. Oh God, my nose itches, and it's hot in these britches. And everybody seems to be growing a beard. Our weirdness just enriches, and our heads are throwing wild pitches. And we're all ready to safely reappear. I want to throw my arms around you, my dear. Get you back in my corner of the stratosphere. I want to kiss you on the ear, standing on the pier in high gear come New Year's. I've got a list in front of me of people that are with us here tonight. And it makes me extremely happy to be able to tell you that this last song was requested, and it's absolutely true. I love you guys. And I'm really, really glad you're here and that you're safe. I hope you all are under the impression that wearing a mask is good for everybody. We can protect each other and get through this. That's the way I think it's going to turn out. So if you've got somebody you can take a hold of and waltz around your den there or wherever you're listening, or if you don't, you can just do like I do sometimes and just dance by myself. This one's for you. I can't be friends with everybody, no matter what I do. I can't be friends with everybody. I know that it's true. I can't be friends with everybody, except at the Blue Bamboo. I can't be friends with everybody. That's why I'm glad I know you. I consider myself pretty lucky. Even when times are tough, I know it seems like I'm always happy. But it's never quite enough. I know that when I'm with you, it's over before we're through. I can't be friends with everybody. That's why I'm glad I know you. Be sure I'm thinking of you when you are alone. Know you're always welcome when you come to my home. When you find you need me, please pick up the phone. I can't be friends with everybody. That's why I'm glad I know you. You know, in Japanese, or maybe it's Chinese, there are many words for love. Here we use one word that means different things. I love my house, I love those rings, I love Bob Dylan and the way he sings. But when it comes for me, I mean you are the best. Here in this moment, let's be together. Right now is forever. Forever is right now. Obviously, it's hard for me to put it any more eloquently. I love you. I love you. Yes, and you, and you, and you too. I really love you. Thank you all for coming to our show tonight. Thank you for being who you are. Thank you for taking care of yourself and others. I can't wait to safely put my arms around you and give you an inappropriate long hug. We'll see you then.